Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about mobs and collective hysteria. And you know, I've been going on about this since the start of March of 2020, that the moral of coronavirus too will be that social contagion is much more dangerous, societally dangerous, than biological contagion. And I'm often trying to get folks to wrap their heads around collective hysteria and how the true evils at the societal level are done at the level of the whole. You know, it's not a centralized cabal trying to do evil per se. The evil is done by well-intentioned folks. And, you know, I've tried to bring forth avalanche examples, different kinds of examples, but another example, and then I'm going to just sort of mention a very common distinction within the sciences that I'm always involved with. Let's just consider a mob. You know, forget about collective hysteria, which is sort of a mob on crack. A regular old mob, we all agree, don't we, that mobs can be dangerous, right? You don't want to be near a mob or, you know, the enemy of a mob, and people get out of hand when there's a mob. And mobs are real things. We all get that there's a mob, and mobs are things. And to say that there was a mob that did this kind of damage or murdered these people or harmed these, you know, did these sorts of harms does not mean, oh, well, the mob did it, so Doug and Judy, who were part of the mob, aren't responsible. So people all say, oh, you're saying it's a mass hysteria, so you're saying that no one's responsible for this, Mark. And I was like, well, just because we say there's a mob and it was the mob that did all these things, no one in their right mind has ever thought, oh, so the mob did it, so therefore, you know, all the individuals are scot-free. No, the individuals are, of course, responsible. But to understand the dynamics of it and how we can potentially, you know, understand that kind of object and maybe inhibit them or stop, you know, quell them once they start, you have to understand the dynamics of a mob. So the difference that's going on is really two different levels of explanation. And this happens all over the sciences. So for example, if you're interested in understanding the brain, you can understand, try to make sense of it at the level of chemicals. Right? You can really low-level stuff, or you might be looking at the level of neurons, which a lot of folks do. It's sort of neuron-level stuff, or maybe the level of patches, you know, groups, ensembles of neurons, or maybe whole areas of the brain, or very holistically at the entire level. As a theorist, I tend to be more higher-level kinds of explanations. In the computer science realm, we have a word for this. These are the Mars levels of explanation. At the algorithmic level, there's just the specific kind of rules that you're having your program solve. Like, we're going to make it solve this kind of algorithm. You know, you generally do this, then you switch this, and you put this on top, and then the whole thing gets sorted. But once you have that basic algorithm in mind, there's many ways to implement it. You can implement it with many different kinds of code that can potentially do that. And of course, even that can be implemented on many different kinds of computers and so forth. So there's multiple levels. To say that one is interested at the mob or mass hysteria level, the dynamics there, or the algorithms that govern and undergird how mobs and mass hysterias work, doesn't mean one is saying that there aren't culpable individuals at the lower level. This is to confuse discussion of two different levels of explanation as if they're competing with one another. They're not competing with one another. We can have conversations about why or how did these mass hysteria dynamics come about? How can we quell them? You know, how much are they responsible for what happened, as opposed to, let's say, a centralized cabal that planned this in advance? But of course, there's still millions of individuals of varying levels of culpability, as we have talked about over and over again. And I hope you find that obvious once you think in terms of a regular old mob. Nobody thinks that the members of a mob are innocent. Right? And that was your Science Moment.